Meow.
Meow.
Meow. Okay.
The show's about to start, right? Meow.
Yes. Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, April 26th, 2018. We have got some great topics for you today here on the iMore show. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists, which makes it sound like a 1960s game show, but I'm going to go with it. Behind door number one is a lovely senior editor who has some feelings about two-factor authentication this morning. We would love to sit down and take a look. Micah Sargent, welcome to the show.
No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop. Yeah, two-factor authentication on Google's whole system is an entirely big whammy that I apparently am always complaining about. So much so that when I started this recording, Rin thought that it was a pre-recorded video of me ranting about two-factor authentication because I was shouting and getting all passionate about it. Google, be better, because two-factor authentication is important and I want to use it everywhere. Don't make me want to turn it off.
It's true. It's true. Also joining our fabulous show today, and yes, I'm going to continue using this Dana White voice just because I can, is our assistant managing editor, jack of all trades, singer in several bands, and fabulous persona, Miss Lori Gill. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'd like to buy a vowel.
Now, whenever you say bands, do you mean like frequency bands? Because I'm sure she can sing in different frequencies.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have much frequency left these days.
Well, see, I almost introduced you as a punk, and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's quite your genre.
It is my genre.
Okay.
It is my genre, but just like, you have to be, when you're a punk, you have to be pretentious and say, I'm not a punk.
But, oh, interesting.
Yeah. But the genre of music that I play and sing for happens to be that. So yeah.
Most basically punk.
I'm learning so much about punks this morning.
Punks don't call themselves punks. That's not punk.
No. Well, to veer off from what determines something that's punk or not punk, we decided to kick this off today and talking with continuing our Can You Do Work on iOS segment. I wrote an article. Yeah, we're starting with my topic. I feel very pretentious right now.
But not punk.
Not punk. Pretentious, but not punk. A different P. Talking about video editing on the iPad. And a lot of people had asked me about this after I did my iPad review video. And so I have literally been wanting to write this article for about 2 years. It's been on my reminders list for 2 years. So I finally got to click that box, and I wrote an article on why I really love video editing on iPad and iPhone, but still has a bit of a ways to go. And so in my article, I essentially talk about why I love it, which is the ease of use that you get from just being able to edit completely on the go in a mobile rig. The fact that working tactilely with your hands, as somebody who came from a little bit of a film school background, I didn't cut actual film. I've worked with nonlinear editors most of my life, but I have filmed with actual film. And I really enjoy the feeling of, having to, okay, here's how to develop your film. Here's how to, make sure that your film doesn't get exposed to light. There's something very, very tactile about the art process. And just like I like drawing with the Apple Pencil, I find it really soothing in a way to be able to use my hands to zoom in or zoom out onto a picture or to cut a certain section of video. It feels very natural in a way that working with arrow keys and keyboard shortcuts doesn't always. So I love that. I like the fact that I can shoot 4K video and it renders pretty much instantaneously on either my iPad Pro or my iPhone, whereas my MacBook Pro, which is pretty beefy, has some problems when I'm trying to deal with big, heavy files. And then I talked about kind of the cons that go into this as well, which is that no matter how much I find it really easy, and I probably go to iMovie or LumaFusion 9 times out of 10 when I'm editing video, the apps are still really buggy and really primitive. And I've gotten past a lot of those bugs because I figured out workarounds. But for instance, because I have a giant iCloud photo library, I can't actually press add new project in iMovie, it stalls. And I've heard from some people on Twitter that it will eventually add a new project if you wait for like 10 minutes for the library to load. But instead, I just use a workaround where I go to the video tab and then I press the share button on a single video and I do like create new project from that. And it's really sad that like that is a workaround that I have to do in 2018. And I've literally been doing this workaround since iCloud Photo Library came out in 2015. So there are things like that that, or running really big projects in LumaFusion can occasionally cause it to crash. Certain rendering certain things, dropping audio out of a video clip, and then trying to put a clip before it can occasionally make all of the audio in an entire timeline slide sideways. The things that might make you really frustrated as a video editor, and I've figured out ways to avoid them in my years of doing this, but I can see them being very frustrating for a new person trying to come onto the platform. So I guess that's kind of the theme of my article, which is like, this is such a wonderful opportunity for Apple, especially for, we've seen them talk a lot about building creativity on the iPad, and we've seen them, go all in on the pencil, which is awesome. And I've spoken at length about why I think that's a great idea. But I'm waiting for the pro apps segment to really come to iPad and iPad Pro. We've already, like, GarageBand on iPad looks amazing and looks very similar to its desktop counterpart. iMovie on iPad does not look similar to its desktop counterpart. It now can transfer projects, which is something that it couldn't do for a few years, but it's missing a lot. It's missing a whole heck of a lot. So I guess my hope is that we'll see some improvements to video editing, and I talk about some suggestions in that article that I'd love to see come. But I really think it could be a huge win for Apple to say, look at this beautiful nonlinear video editor we have on this device that you already shoot 4K video with, and then you can share directly to your favorite service. They kind of do that already with Clips, but Clips is really designed for Instagram videos, right? It's designed for short, quick, run-of-the-mill things, whereas I think people are trying to do much more complicated projects on iPad. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, do you think that this is something that makes sense for Apple to explore? Is it something that you'd want to do? Are you like Mecca? I know you edit a ton of video. Is it something that, like, are you like, no, MacBook forever? Or is it a workflow you'd like to try if the tools were there that you needed?
Well, it's interesting. I have edited before on iPad and iPhone, and particularly on iPhone. Back when I worked well, I guess I've done that when I worked at Newsy, and I've done it when I've worked here at CES. I remember literally being on the show floor, and I just sort of like put my back up against one of the poles that held the ceiling in place so that I wasn't running into anybody, and was just swiping through and putting together a video that I was able to share on social media. And that ability to just like, there's just something so brilliant about being able to do this all from my phone. I wasn't waiting for the fans to spin up on my MacBook Pro. I wasn't having to go through and sort of layer on a bunch of stuff. It was very simple for me to just go through and use my finger. That is very intuitive, to go through, use your finger, and like find the cuts that you want to make and get that video out there. And then it's not like dragging and dropping to multiple windows and making sure that you are exporting in proper formats and all that stuff. The share sheets right there, it does all of that stuff for you. And so there is something to be said about the tactile nature and the simplicity and how those two things combine. I am going to have to get what's it called? LumaFusion app. That sounds,
yeah,
that sounds incredible, and I think that will give me more of an opportunity to edit on the iPad, because I've talked about how much I love my iPad, but I've never done much video editing on it. And again, like, with the simplicity and the way that you can sort of get things done quickly on iPhone, I imagine that it's even better on the iPad. So certainly something that I would want to experiment with more. I think the one thing that's sort of shocking to me in a way, and now it's time for my bit of pretentiousness, my bit of non-punk pretentiousness. I can remember using iMovie, and this is after years of using Premiere and using then Final Cut Pro. Um, and a friend of mine had come over and she was needing help with a project that she was doing for school. And she didn't have Final Cut Pro. She just had iMovie. So she pops open iMovie and I am in there and I'm like, this is on the Mac. And I'm like, I have absolutely no idea how to use this application because the way it's so simplified, it just didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, how do I cut any of this video? And how do I like separate the audio tracks and all this other stuff? It was so simplified and not intuitive to me on the Mac, but on iPhone, it fits in with Apple's other stuff. And so it made sense there. So when it comes to the Mac, like I love Final Cut Pro. That's the tool that I use most often. And that's the one that I'll use for non-linear video editing. But I have no qualms with using these applications on the iPhone because much of the video editing that I do doesn't require some of those more special skills that you, or not skills, but special tools and things that you need that you can only get on more powerful platforms. But please bring more powerful tools and things like that to iPad because there's something to be said about being able to sort of directly manipulate things.
So I'm going to be the voice of people who know nothing about video editing, and I'll make a couple comments though. Serenity, you talked about the tactile feel of editing on your iPhone or iPad, I mean, and how that feels comfortable, and that makes so much sense to me because it's art. Video editing is art, and having to click and type and use arrow keys isn't as intuitive to us in using our brains as it is to like feel things, like move things around. I can physically move a picture on my desktop to get it out of the way or something. And it seems like the iPad kind of caters to that desire to have physical tactile activities while you're video editing, which I think probably kind of tingles that creative side of your brain that you're doing the physical work like that. So it makes a lot of sense that the iPad is a really comfortable environment for something like video editing. I like that idea. I have literally never, one time in my life have I ever edited a video, and it was on my iPhone and it was with iMovie, and it was the most hilarious thing I've ever done. It was late one night in the summer. I was hanging out with my friends and we were being really silly, and we made a music video with my iPad where we were driving around and pretending like we were thugs, and it was just silly and ridiculous. And it took me maybe a half an hour to edit it and turn it into this music video that I made. And I know zero about video editing. So the fact that somebody like me who knows nothing about it was capable of doing something like that, I thought I was pretty awesome. So working with video editing on iPhone and iPad with the limitations that we have in the software, for somebody like me, or maybe somebody who's a little more experienced than me, I think is probably really good because it's very, very easy to get into it, to start doing it, to play around with it. I think Serenity's comment about the software not really being quite as pro as she needs it to be, and there's probably a lot of people out there that they might start working on their iPad with video editing and then they switch over to Mac because they need some of the more pro tools to get where they want to go with it. It'd be really nice to see Apple find a way to integrate that, or third-party developers find a way to integrate the advanced pro features that you get on a desktop or laptop computer into something like the MacBook Pro, especially the MacBook Pro. It's powerful enough. It can handle enough. And just like Serenity, you were saying, it handled it better on your iPad Pro than it did on your MacBook Pro. So that's saying something, that the guts of an iPad Pro it's pro enough to work with these really pro apps and these pro tools.
One of the things that I quickly want to touch on to go along with sort of using these applications on iOS, I was so proud. The other day, my mom sent me a text and she said, "Look what I made in iMovie. I didn't even know there was an iMovie app." And then she sends me this little video, and it is the most adorable thing. Like it sort of brought me to tears. It was this sweet little trailer of just like her doing happy things and being happy, and it had like this I think she used like the trailer effect, so it had like this, coming to video near you, and at the end, like she'd put in that she is the executive producer and all this other stuff. And those little videos, it reminds me of the Apple ad with the little boy who looks like he's on his phone at holiday time the whole time and sort of not paying any attention to anybody. And then at the very end, he shows that he was making this video of all of their fun. I'm gonna start crying now because it's just such a sweet, sweet, sweet video. But like these I've talked before about how uh, tech writers can really use some empathy, and we can sometimes forget that we aren't the only ones using these tools and using these applications. And when everyday people can be empowered to create things, it's really magical. And that is the bigger audience. That is who these tools in many cases are for. And so with those things being where they are right now, I would love to see again what comes next, and for Apple to pay even more attention, toward these things, so that we can have those tools that are just as powerful. And I think we're going to get that. I mean, I think we really are. I have faith in that because, as much as everyone gripes about Tim Cook not caring about the Mac, that means that the focus is on iOS. And so I do see these more professional things, anything that we are missing, eventually coming to the platform.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I did want to plug one thing. After I published this article, someone brought up and they were like, "Hey, why aren't you talking about Enlight's video editor?" And I was like, "Enlight's video editor," and they make something called Video Leap, which I have apparently downloaded in the past and completely glossed over, partially because it's either I think $70 for an unlimited full time,
Yeah.
or you just pay for a monthly subscription. And I think at the time I wasn't seriously testing video apps. So I was just kind of like, I'll try it someday. And then someday turned into never. But I downloaded it today. And that is actually a really cool program. And I'd like to play with it a little bit more because it does keyframing. And that's the one of the few things I know about on iPad that does keyframing and does it in a smart way. And they have a whole bunch of effects, including chroma keys and green screens, that you can apply, and melding multiple images together. So I'm pretty excited to give that a whirl. I think I might go take a video this weekend and see how it handles it.
And the good thing about
That's
that is that all those tools tie together. Enlight's whole suite of tools tie together. That's the
yeah.
one complaint that because I've used that tool before, back before it added even more features. And the one complaint that I have is across their suite of programs, it gets pretty expensive pretty quickly if you want the added features, because their photo editing program is very strong. They have like a manipulation one where you can combine multiple images really easily, but it can get pretty pricey. But I certainly would like to hear if it ends up being worth it, based on how your video editing experience goes.
Definitely. All right. Let's move right along. Lori Gill, there was some Nintendo news today.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was actually a few days ago. So some anonymous hacker published the much talked about boot ROM exploit without warning, without telling the chip maker that it existed. And this prompted all of the Nintendo hackers who have been quietly developing with a Nintendo Switch jailbreak to publish all of their information right away. Here's the deal. The NVIDIA Tegra X1 chip has a boot exploit. It is unpatchable. It's in the chip itself. So unless you actually take your Switch back to the manufacturer and have it flashed, it's unfixable. You can't be patched. So Nintendo has to, for example, put out new Nintendo Switches with a new with a chip that doesn't have the exploit in it. So it's called a hard mod, which means no matter what version update Nintendo puts out, it will never ever be able to be patched. So it is a permanent jailbreak, which is really exciting. because nobody has to wait to update their software or wait for another jailbreak that works with the new software or anything like that. This is very similar to iPhone and other phone related jailbreak stuff, which I'm very new to the Nintendo Switch jailbreak. So I apologize if I'm misinformed with some of this stuff. I'm still reading as much as I can to figure out about it. So with this jailbreak, anyone can do this on their own Nintendo Switch super easily anytime they want to, as long as it's one they already own. So Nintendo is probably already shipping an updated version of the Switch that doesn't have that exploit in it. Right now, though, because the anonymous hacker who published that exploit without telling anybody, the ones who have been working toward like creating a custom firmware or kind of developing homebrew for Nintendo Switch, they weren't ready. They were still working on stuff behind closed doors. So now that it's out and open, the jailbreak itself, there's practically nothing you can do with it unless you're a developer and you know how to like kind of work within the system. There's a sort of a modified version of Linux that you can download, and one of the hacker groups just made a cute little picture that when you upload it onto the Nintendo Switch, it makes this cute little picture. And right now, that's about it with this a hard mod. There's a soft mod jailbreak that you have to have version 3.0 on your Nintendo Switch to access. And that does give you, they call it Switch Brew, but it's homebrew for Nintendo Switch, where you can create games and find them in the homebrew store that's in Nintendo stores. But you have to be on version 3.0 for that. It's called a soft mod. So that there's not a lot of us didn't start getting interested in jailbreaking our Nintendo Switches until after 3.0 came out. So for example, my Switch is 4.0, so there's no way I could get that particular jailbreak. So it's big news because within the next few months, we're going to see a lot of really cool things come to Nintendo Switch in the jailbreak world. I'm most excited about the custom firmware stuff that we're going to get to see. I think it's fascinating. The hacker community, they are in love with just noodling around with software that they're not supposed to noodle around with. That's all it's about. They're not trying to, the hacker communities that I read the forums for, they're not in it for stealing games. That's not what they're doing this for. You can have that discussion back and forth about whether or not they secretly are, because I think that there's a lot of people out there who secretly just want to steal games, but really, they just want to do it. They just want to see what different things they can do. They want to load side-scrolling screens of things and just do it just because they can, because they're not supposed to. So it's really fascinating to watch all of this unfold and watch these hackers kind of like come up with hilarious things that they can do on their Switch now. So I'm excited for it.
I think, I think it's fun. It's fun. There are of course a bunch of problems that are involved with these kinds of things, and you have to, there are concerns that you have to take into account and make sure that security patches are put in place. But when it comes to just makers making, I love it. I love any time that a curious person breaks something apart and ends up making something really awesome, because not only is it just like, it shows someone is passionate about the platform, and it goes beyond, it's not, again, you said it's not malicious, it's nothing like that. It's just, let's see what else we can do with this. And I think some of the best things that have ever been made have come from people taking something and building upon it and making it so much more than what it already is. And that, like, I love that. And I would argue that much of the technology that we have today would not be here if it wasn't for, the tinkerers and the builders and the creative people who say, okay, this works for this, but let's see if we can take it and do this with it. So if you can do things such as make Yoshi, I don't know, give birth to Kirby's or something, like that's hilarious and fun. But if you can like take it and turn a Nintendo Switch into a transformer suit for your next cosplay, like whatever. It's all fun stuff, and as long as it stays in the fun zone and it's not like, let's sell a bunch of switches that will steal people's home Wi-Fi and turn them into botnets so that we can make a bunch of money on Bitcoin, that's when it gets bad, and we don't want that.
Yeah. No, definitely. And there's always going to be those kind of fears going through of whether or not people are doing nefarious things with their game devices. But the game hacking community has been around as long as home consoles have been around. So I think, nothing worldwide bad has happened so far when it comes to gaming consoles. So I think we're still kind of safe with this. So to move on quickly, in addition to the Switch jailbreak that just came out, that just happened a few days ago, Nintendo it was actually on the 20th of April, they launched Nintendo Labo, which is it's a do-it-yourself physical game toy that you can play with your Nintendo Switch. This is official, and it has to do with so you get a package that you buy a box, and inside the box is a bunch of sheets of cardboard. And those sheets of cardboard have little pop-out things that you can do. So then you fold those sheets of cardboard into, say, a piano or a fishing pole or a little bug. And then you use your Nintendo Switch with those pieces of cardboard to make a piano actually make the keys make noise, or the fishing rod will actually pull fish from the Switch's tablet because you're using the Joy-Cons in conjunction with this cardboard to make all of this happen. And it's so fascinating. And I don't actually own it. Russell has it. He bought it for his kids. He bought it for his kids and had them do their own review of it. And it's exactly what Nintendo should be doing with kids. It brings families together because children want to do this fun, exciting thing, but they can have their parents there helping them if things get a little bit confusing for them. It also helps them learn to code because there's a part of the game that's called the Labo Garage, and in Labo Garage you actually code your own stuff. And so you can create like a guitar by dragging inputs and outputs to different locations and then just touching the screen. You don't even need the cardboard to do some of the things. The garage lets you experiment with all different manner of what Nintendo has already kind of built as the base. So you can use your imagination to create anything you want. You can create a bug that sings, or you can create a piano that vibrates. Like, these are all different things. As long as you have like the base of the content that Nintendo has included with Labo, you can make all kinds of things, which is another thing I'm very excited about in the maker world. Not just kids, but grownups have these wonderful ideas for the kind of things they want to create using 3D printing. So they can kind of do what Nintendo intended with cardboard, but kind of take it to the next level and create these extreme permanent structures out of things they've 3D printed. And it's another super fascinating thing that I'm really having a good time reading about. Again, I don't own it myself. I'm not saying I won't buy it, but I postponed it just because it's not cheap. I think the Labo Variety Pack is $79.99, and the Labo Robot, which, by the way, it lets you be a robot.
So cool. There's the transformer.
It's sort of like this physical.
Wait. Please clarify. It lets you be a robot?
The Robo Kit, when you put it all together, when it's all packaged and ready to be worn, you have this huge backpack and a set of goggles, and you have things on your feet, and they're all attached to each other through gears and strings. And you hold the Joy-Cons in your hands, and you can walk around. And then if you're watching your screen, on the screen, you are walking around in a city, and you can punch bad guys by just your physical movement. So it's like combining this sort of Wii physical movement with augmented reality, with virtual reality. When you put the goggles down on your head, you're looking from first person point of view, but if you lift them off your head, you're looking from third person point of view. It's amazing. So you
That's
can
really
actually
neat.
like dress up like a robot, but also on screen be a robot. It's amazing. So yeah, it's really cool, and I'm really excited to hear more about it. I might end up getting the variety pack one. I'm really fascinated by it. It seems really fun. It really gets me in my DIY crafting bug. It seems really, really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I again, like the maker, like it's so fun, and the idea that we can take things as simple as cardboard and turn them into something so awesome, and the way that that feels, it's different from buying, some fancy kit made of velour, like some bodysuit made of velour or something that you put on, and you tie up all these wires to you. This fun making type feel is just it adds to the experience, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
It's definitely something that makes me really intrigued about actually getting a Switch. I've held off so far, but I have to say the Labo kit really makes me excited about what you can do with the platform.
Get it.
I've also held off.
You guys don't know what you're missing out on, I'm telling you. I
Clearly.
already know though, Micah's going to get a Switch if Animal Crossing actually does come to Switch, which
True.
there are very strong rumors that suggest it. So
And
Animal
that's when I will
Crossing
no longer be
rumors.
strong enough to resist it.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Let's
And
talk
then
about
we never talk to Micah again because he's
no, I don't think I tend to spend very little time on gaming consoles. So who knows? Maybe if the Labo and Animal Crossing can combine, and I can like pick my own fruit by moving my arms, then yeah, bye, Micah. See you later.
Oh, that
Uh,
sounds so fun.
I would love to do a review for that if it comes up. But I want to tell you about something else that is very difficult to resist. It's spending money. Spending money is fun, but why not save some money while you're spending it? You can do that with Thrifter. Thrifter is a new way. It's not a new way. It is a known way now to save money on everything from gadgets to home goods by shopping based on value and not hype. It's none of those fake deals that don't actually count as deals. You're really going to be saving money with Thrifter. If you sign up at thrifter.com, you're going to get thoughtfully selected deals from places like Amazon and Best Buy and other places that don't even have to do with tech. It's all the stuff and none of the fluff. And we are going to head to thrifter.com and actually, Lori, let's have you again. You always find some really good deals on Thrifter. So I'm just going to ask you, and only you, listeners, what deal you see on Thrifter that you think people would be interested in, or at least that you're interested in.
So, in line with Nintendo Switch related stuff, since that was a subject we were just talking about, right now you can get a 200 gigabyte micro SD card, which Nintendo Switch uses for storage. Normally $85 is now down to $55. So that's a really great deal. And if you play video games on Nintendo Switch or Nintendo DS, you know how important having that extra storage is, because they have hundreds of games in their eShop that I want to buy all the time. And some of the reason I haven't gone for some of the games is that I currently only have one micro SD card with 16 gigs of storage on it, which I know is silly. I know I need to buy one, but they're a little bit pricey. And 200 gigs for $55 is a really great price. It's the I can only tell by looking at the picture. Let me see if I can get the specs on this, because the specs are important. Yeah, it has 100 megabytes upload speed, and it's A1. So it's a top notch chip. So it will work for your uploading of Nintendo Switch. It's also great for phones, for those people who have phones that actually have storage space, external storage space. But for Nintendo Switch users or Nintendo DS users, here's the deal. Here's where it's time. Get that.
There you go. It's time. Get that. That's Thrifter's new tagline. No, I'm kidding. Again, you can head to thrifter.com to sign up and get thoughtfully selected deals. I said I was only going to mention Lori's, but I also saw a deal on there for bonsai trees. It's been a long time since I've owned a bonsai, but it was so much fun when I did. And they make excellent plants. There are indoor and outdoor varieties. So you might be able to save some money on those if you head to thrifter.com. All the stuff, none of the fluff. Thanks so much to Thrifter for sponsoring the iMore Show. All right, Serenity, what else is on the list this week?
Oh my God, we're running out of time because we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. But I think the biggest thing to mention quickly is Flickr got bought by SmugMug. It's out of poor Flickr, the little photo sharing service that's just been passed off from people to people. Got bought by Yahoo. We had this whole song and dance of like, oh God, now Yahoo owns Flickr. Do we want to not be with Flickr anymore? And unfortunately, Yahoo just kind of let Flickr stagnate. While other platforms like Instagram popped up and 500 Pixels and also SmugMug. And SmugMug, for people who don't know, is a really popular professional photo sharing service, usually used by professional photographers, wedding photographers, folks like that, who want to store their photos for public galleries, but also be able to sell their photos. Mm-hmm. So SmugMug has officially bought Flickr from Yahoo as part of kind of the whole Yahoo liquidation. And it's being left as is for now. Being the operative word, right? They will continue to be two separate products, which makes sense because SmugMug is very much a pro product and doesn't really have smart free tiers for people. Whereas Flickr, the whole concept is built around like anybody can share photos. But the question still remains. It's like, okay, I still have a Flickr account, and going back was actually really illuminating because it's a lot of the photos that I took with my DSLR. So it's all like my Instagram is a combination of front-facing camera photos and some nice artsy photos, but it's not like a unified look. And my Flickr account was very much like, I am a serious photographer. Here are my beautiful serious photographer photos. So how are you guys feeling about it?
I've got a similar experience with my Flickr. Not that my photos are great looking or anything, but I haven't really used Flickr since 2014. I think was the latest photo that I had up there. When Flickr first came out, it was like a larger version of what Instagram is now. You can socialize with your friends, see what they've put up, comment, all the same things that you can do on Instagram. You were already doing it on Flickr. I don't know why Flickr didn't kind of become that sort of social media platform that Instagram did. It's just one of those things. It is a really great service. It's a great way to store your photos and allow other people to see them or keep them private. The fact that SmugMug owns it now, I don't think there's an issue about that at all. It's very similar to the way Yahoo got Flickr, except for it's probably a little more secure than Yahoo. No offense, Yahoo.
All offense.
Yeah. So I don't think we're going to see really any changes. If anything, what we'll see is SmugMug might make some user interface changes to make it more user friendly, which is nothing but a bonus. I don't think they're going to make any big changes or require people to pay or anything like that. I think it's probably going to be a great thing for this almost dying platform for storing your photos and sharing your photos, and maybe it will breathe life back into it. And we've got a lot of Facebook controversy going on right now, and Instagram is also owned by Facebook, so maybe SmugMug can breathe life into Flickr, and people will switch over to that platform and kind of use that as a means to get away from the Facebook entity that most of our social media right now is dealing with. So
it's interesting that you bring that up, Lori, because one of the things the CEO was interviewed by, I can't remember who broke the story, but whoever broke the story, they got an interview with the CEO. And one of the things that the CEO put forth as a value proposition for both SmugMug and now Flickr is that these are platforms that do not make their money by selling or offering ads based on customer data. And it's not that whenever you upload, your face is going to get scanned and all this other stuff, and using that to inform how they sell their products. So that is a big value proposition. There is one thing that I want to touch on, though. I think one of the killers of Flickr, when Yahoo scooped up Flickr, um, the company decided to try to social media eyes Flickr and added this thing called Photo Stream. And Photo Stream made it more like Instagram, in that whatever was the last thing that you uploaded, that's what you saw the first thing. Albums took a back seat. Your featured photos took a back seat. All of those things sort of got tucked in the back seat, and comments became more important. And when that happened, the semi-pro and pro market, that user base rather, that existed there, sort of decided, okay, this is going a way that I don't want it to go. This is not what I signed up for. This is not what I had in mind whenever I joined Flickr. And they jumped to places like SmugMug and 500 Pics. And so I think Yahoo took a misstep there in turning it into too much of a social media network, and not enough of what it was before, where it was a place to have a portfolio without having to necessarily have a website, or if you were using it for personal reasons, to have a place where you can easily share photos with family members and things like that. And then also a way to get business. And SmugMug, yeah, you can sell your photography there, and that's a huge factor in how that all works. And they've got integrations with every. I signed into my SmugMug account that I had set up a long time ago just to see. And I mean, you can integrate with so many different platforms, so they make it super easy to upload the photos. But it's funny, when the CEO was interviewed about this, they said, "So what are you going to do with Flickr?" And he's like, "Yeah, we have no idea." He said, "But that's kind of how we do things." He said, "When we sort of have planned out SmugMug, it's all based on what our users want, and we have a grand idea, but aside from that, we don't know where the thing is going to go, and we listen to what the users want and go from there." So I think that SmugMug is going to sort of place Flickr in a two-pronged sort of value space. One is a place where you can put your photos and you don't have to worry about every single bit of your data being, sold or whatever. And then two, to bring back that vibrant user base that once existed there, that had sort of been scared away when Yahoo tried to change it and make it something totally different. So this should hopefully breathe life back into it. And interestingly, SmugMug has been around longer than Flickr has, and I didn't know that. I thought Flickr was sort of the old head in the space, but SmugMug's been around a long time. Yeah, so they certainly know what they're doing in terms of photo storage and sharing and selling. So this should be good.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm not deleting my Flickr account yet, so
Yeah, mine's still there.
We'll see. Too. Honestly, yeah, I do kind of like that preservation of my nice photos. So we're almost out of time, but I just want to do kind of a quick hits rundown, just because these are some cool stories that I want to highlight. Matthew Castellini is doing some great workflow stuff for us on the website. Workflow, if you don't know, was an app that's bought by Apple. It is an amazing utility for iOS that lets you automate actions and do so in a really smart and easy to understand way. And Matthew has been so great about detailing how it all works. So please check out his series if you're at all interested in automation on iOS, because it's aces. I also wanted to highlight Lori has a new game she's pretty excited about.
Yeah, well, I'm not super excited about it. It's Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery. It is not the Niantic Harry Potter. It is actually a role-play game version of Harry Potter, which is very exciting. This particular game, unfortunately, has kind of that paywall that you hit where you're in the middle of an action and you run out of energy, and you have to either wait an hour to get energy back, or you have to pay money to do it. So I'm a little disappointed in it, because I feel like this game could have been great, but I see myself getting frustrated enough with it that I will probably play it for a couple of weeks and then give up on it because of that stopping you in the middle of gameplay thing that happens. And, you know, it's 2018. There have been a lot of great games that have figured out a way to monetize their free games, and this is not that format anymore. And I'm a little bummed that this happened this way. It could have been done a lot different and still found ways to make money off of us without kind of stopping us from playing unless we pay. So I do love it, but you know, I'd like to see some more people talk about what they think of it. So. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me sad.
After a week with it, maybe we'll check back in and talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I might have a completely different opinion once I've been deep in it and had some more time with it, because you definitely have to learn your pacing when it comes to new games, especially free ones. So.
Oh yeah. And the last thing I wanted to highlight was an amazing article by Matthias Eckler on backcountry hiking and ultra running with the Apple Watch. And this is a subject that's kind of passionate, like near and dear to my heart, because my dad is an ultra runner, but I am not. So I'm like, well, I can't test the Apple Watch in the mountains. So I reached out to somebody I know who is an avid ultra runner and very much a tech fiend. And Matthias put together this really, really phenomenal article and video showing how he ran, like what he was doing with the Apple Watch in the backcountry. And also he compared it to the Suunto Sport, which is a GPS watch. And it's given me a lot to think about in terms of what the Apple Watch can do for long-term exercise versus short-term. So definitely check that article out.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. And yeah, last but not least, I just wanted to maybe end it on like, Apple, consider fixing this. So Casey Johnson, who's been with the Outline last year, did a story on the MacBook Pro keyboard and how she was very frustrated that her 2016 MacBook Pro keyboard kept on failing her. And she did a follow-up yesterday. She did a follow-up on Wednesday where she basically said, you know what? I sold my computer. I went and bought an older version because this was driving me so crazy that I I couldn't do anything else. And Renee wrote a little bit about this. And it's frustrating because it seems like it's only affecting a minor amount of users, but the users that it is affecting, it is completely demolishing their life, right? Because an unusable keyboard is unusable. And I have this issue, like I've run into it several times on my MacBook Pro, and so far it's all been temporary, right? My spacebar stops working and then I just keep on mashing it, hoping that it'll work, and eventually it works. But I had an issue where the delete key stuck for a while, which meant that while I was typing, random swaths of stuff would get deleted.
Oh, God, that is not okay.
No, it's not okay. It's not okay. And it's very frustrating. I'm like, I understand completely where people are at here, even if it is only like 2,000 people that this is affecting. If the fact of the matter is that, yeah, it really is. Like the keyboard is like the power circuit. Like it's so vital to your computing experience that if it doesn't work, something is seriously 100% wrong. So I'm really hoping that even if it is a very minor subsection of users, that Apple still makes a public statement about this and comes out and says, you know what, this is a very weird occurrence that we're seeing, but we will replace it.
Here's a free keyboard bumper case.
Exactly. Well, yeah, right. Either a bumper case or, I've heard some people say that the 2017 versions of the MacBook Pro do not have this problem. And I'm on a 2016, so I really don't know. But that is something that I think we'll be looking into and seeing if maybe it is just this first generation of the weird keyboard that just isn't working properly. Whatever the case, I hope Apple fixes it because it's obnoxious.
Yeah, I think it's true. It'd be nice if they would actually kind of make a public statement about it and let people know, we hear you, we understand that there's a problem, that kind of, it seems more than just a couple of random occurrences, and we're going to do something to take care of that. It would be really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Apple is always wary to make a public statement because it makes a thing bigger than it potentially is. But in this case, I feel like the news cycle is going to spin on you regardless.
Yeah.
Might be time.
Yeah.
All right. And speaking of time, we are all out of it for this week's edition of the iMore Show. Thank you all very much for watching. We do it for you, and we really appreciate you tuning in. Lori, you can find her at Appaholic, right? Appaholic on Twitter. You can find Micah at Micah Sargent. You can find me at Saturn, and you can find all of us on imore.com. Have a nice Thursday afternoon. Well, Friday afternoon, because I think that's when it
whatever you see. Yeah,
we're
whatever
gonna
you hear
we're
this.
gonna do that again. Have a nice afternoon, iMore readers and listeners, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.